Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. God said, "Let there be light." And the Bible tells us that there was light. God's word accomplished that which it was sent to proclaim. Still, maybe we've never really noticed what it said before that. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was complete chaos, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. In the midst of that stormy chaos, in the midst of all that disorder, God was. And God brought order. "Let there be light," God said. And it made all the difference. Some of my favorite moments were getting ready for the Easter sunrise service. I normally get to church early on Sundays, but in those days when we had a sunrise service, I would be especially early in order to get things ready for the day. There were few people out and about. At the church, I was certainly the only one there at that time. Birds in the trees were silent. Things were still and quiet and dark. That was my favorite time, that time of anticipation of resurrection, that time before the empty tomb is found, that time of waiting and pondering and hoping filling my heart. It was almost like being in that moment as God takes in a breath to speak the words, "Let there be light." Weeks following Easter Sunday, we are still caught up in the wonder and mystery and joy of the resurrection and God's incredible grace and love. Our theme this week is Signs of Spring, and we are looking at springtime things and connecting them to Easter. Today, we are talking about morning light. I think sometimes we get so caught up in Mary and the other women making their way to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body for burial and wondering about who would roll away the stone and then finding the empty tomb that we don't notice something important. They came before dawn. It was early morning before sunrise. It was dark. Their grief carried them stumbling forward, their love for him urging them forward to a last tender act of caring that could be done. It was dark. That's how things are so often for us. We grope and stumble through the darkness of our lives, unseeing, not understanding, grieving, hoping with little expectation of fulfillment. It is so often that life seems so dark. But even as they go, they don't know that the resurrection has already happened. In the dark of that early morning, Jesus has been raised. The chaos of life is dispelled. God has established God's order. On that early morning before the sun rose, God's sun rose. In the darkness of our world, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Easter is God's declaration that darkness does not get the last word. Easter is God's declaration that darkness does not get the last word. Easter is God's declaration that darkness does not get the last word. There's a famous story about Robert Louis Stevenson, author of such books as Treasure Island, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and many more. When Stevenson was a child, he contracted an extended illness, and during his recovery one evening, he was seen staring out of the window of his sick room, watching a man lighting the street lamps. When his nurse asked him what he was doing, Stevenson replied, "I'm watching a man punch holes in the darkness." The morning light reminds us that in our lives, that's just what Easter does. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.